Welcome to the Nerds and Friends podcast. My name is Josh Lindquist. This is our first episode back from our holiday hiatus, our first episode of 2023, and we are joined by Mr. Rudolph, author and all-around good guy, and I'm excited to get to know you more, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Josh, thank you so much for having me. I have appreciated your kindness and understanding, especially with scheduling.
Yes, that's the downfall of many a podcast, so I appreciate your flexibility as well. So. Fantastic. Well, let's get started. I want to jump in and just let our listeners and viewers know that you can be found on Amazon if people type in NM Rudolph, and we'll have links in the episode description below, so be sure to check that out. You've got 4 books on Amazon. Tell me about those books and your journey as an author, and let's kind of start there.
Sure. So journey as an author, started in my childhood. My dad's been a scholar my whole life, and so I gained a love of reading and writing very early on. The earliest poem I have managed to preserve is I think it was like 3rd grade.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm never going to share with any. Well, it's not that bad, but it's a kid's poem. But I was writing before that, so I've loved it forever. My first novel actually technically was started in middle school.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm 35 now. Middle school is over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
No, sorry, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A whole half a lifetime ago, literally.
Half a lifetime ago, my book started. Then over the years, it sort of like spaced out, and I did other things. And then as the years passed on, I addressed it more and more frequently. And finally, a couple years ago, I said to myself, I have to write a book. It's been plaguing me forever. I need to commit to it or die. Do or die.
Yeah.
Overhauled it, improved. Had to edit a whole lot.
Yeah.
Finally finished it. Boom, and that has become Meadowvale.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like it was like a decade in the works, if not longer. That's really exciting. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think it turned out pretty well. Go ahead, what?
Can you give us a teaser about what the book's about?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh,
so most people think of Watership Down, don't. It has talking rabbits, but Watership Down is okay, focus on, most people don't know, and I'm surprised. Brian Jacques, the Redwall series.
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Okay, well, I read that growing up, so I was inspired to imitate his style.
Okay.
Talking animals again, but the starting point is called Redwall Abbey, and they have swords and riddles and armies and adventures and
That's awesome.
not strict magic. Magic doesn't actually come up with these little hints here and there.
Oh, okay.
So in my story, Talking Animals starts focusing on a family who live in the village of Meadowvale.
Okay.
They're farmers, couple kids. The main-ish characters, I think there are a lot of really key players, but the main 2 are probably Wearable, a young boy, and his sister Allison.
Okay.
The story, so the problems start when an army of lizards sweeps in, captures some, kills others, sets everything else on fire.
Wow.
And then the story follows the captives as they're trying to survive.
Oh, as they're pulled from their home village and exploring this big new world and everything?
Well, no, they're basically enslaved to mine in the lizard's mine, because they're seeking this magical mineral. And then the other half of the book watches all the people who are left over, how do we got to save our families. What do? We need to go collect all of our sort of distant cousins in the various villages, amass an army, and save our families.
I got goosebumps. They got to go on a rescue mission and get them out of there. That sounds awesome.
That is it. That is what they're doing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to read that. That sounds really cool. That's a great concept where you're showing these. It's kind of a combination of a lot of those mythology, different kind of archetypes for plot, but you're combining them where you're focusing on those who are yanked from their home and put into captivity and have to deal with hardship, and then those who are kind of called to adventure and heroics to save their family, and it kind of has both those. I really love that. That's really cool.
This was in the super intense overhaul revision stage where I finally decided, okay, I am going to go back and forth between chapters.
Yeah.
Captives, villagers, and it created a nice balance, a nice flow.
That's a good way to do that. Yeah. That sounds really cool. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, tell us about your other books. 'Cause I see you've got three. Meadowvale sounds outstanding, but I see you've got Untold Tales, you've got Unhinged, 36 by 36, and then Rumination.
yeah.
Is Rumination like a poetry book or is it a novel? What is that?
So the other three are so technically Unhinged, 36 by 36, is not poetry, it's flash fiction. There's no rhyme, no meter, but each story,
Yeah.
quotation, is 36 words.
Whoa.
So my first published item was Untold Tales,
Okay.
collection of poetry. It's a handful of poems that are like sort of familiar myths retold. Like I read a poem about Cupid. I read a poem about Tigger. I think is epic in my opinion. And then I write some of my own little tales. As the dreaded Rosalie is a pirate that I just kind of made up.
Okay.
Oh, Untold Tales, cool adventurous poems. That was the first thing I published. I hated it.
Really?
Process anyway.
Okay.
A friend, I had a friend who was an illustrator, and I did proof copies to, of course, to check through and make sure that editing was working.
Right.
First proof copy came and I was like, I hate this. I'm done. I'm just gonna submit and be and like that's it. She's like,
Like,
no, no.
was there formatting issues or it just didn't turn out the way
Yeah,
you wanted? Or
yeah.
okay.
There were a lot of minor things,
Yeah.
but that's she encouraged me just fix the things, print another proof copy. It'll be good. It'll be
Right.
good if you make it good. So finally finished. I think it turned out well. Still, I hated it. But after I had some time to like whew, let my nerves calm down, I thought to myself, okay, that's part of the process. I need to stomach that. So unhinged. First off, I wanted to give myself the freedom to write like anything
Yeah.
because I don't know how you've felt about it, but one of the most stereotypical attributes of the writer is being afraid of writing.
Interesting.
Have you experienced that?
I have not. I enjoy writing very much. Um, I'm more afraid of editing, to be honest, because like once I've written something and I feel attached to it, I'm afraid to go tinker with it and ruin whatever else I've done. So that's kind of yeah, that's kind of my relationship to it. I don't know. Yeah, editing's always my scariest part. Like first draft, getting a first draft done, that's comes pretty naturally to me. It's everything after that that I'm like, you know.
Because most of the my writing buddies and most of the people I've seen in various writing groups, they're like, well, I just like I don't feel confident about this thing, or I don't want to write this thing, or somebody's already done this thing, and they're always stalling themselves.
I guess thankfully I'm not burdened by that. No,
Great.
I feel fairly confident about my stories and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I I I'm confident about my writing, but I could always find some reason to be like, well, I shouldn't do this thing.
right.
So I used Unhinged. I said I can write whatever I want. It's 36 mini stories. Each story is 36 words.
That's such a cool concept. I've never heard of anything like that. I love that.
They're complete, like every sentence is a complete thought,
Yeah.
but they're just ridiculous things. I'll pull one up as I'm describing
Yeah,
the
I'd
purpose
love
of
to
it.
get a preview, and I have some follow-on questions once we hear one, but that's really exciting. So,
Yeah. The sort of secondary goal of this was to practice publishing.
oh, okay.
And so this time it was instead of being painful and hating it, it was just tedious. And I was like, all right, I'll just click and I'll fix the margin and I'll fix the alignment and I'll fix
Yeah.
the spacing and I'll fix the font. And now since that, I've been like, I know how to do this. And so
Yeah.
now I'm
Can I ask, did you publish through KDP using that system? Yeah,
yes.
I did. That's what I did for my books too. And yeah, the first time it was I was actually in quarantine in Los Angeles with COVID when I decided to publish my first book. And so I just kind of I Googled like some KDP advice and it seemed kind of dense and I was like, I'm just gonna play with it till I figure it out. So I did kind of what you
Yeah.
did where I just played with those margins and let it, generate that preview for, a painful 40 minutes or whatever. And then I looked through it and I was like, okay, we gotta change this or that and
Yeah.
just a learning
I
process. Yeah.
I so like I use Scrivener to write and format things.
Okay.
Basically, I exported the file maybe hundreds, maybe 1,000 times, just like export. Oh shoot, it didn't work this time. Let me fix it again. Export. Nope, it still didn't work.
Yep.
Oof.
I actually
Oh,
I need to look into Scrivener because I just use Microsoft Word. for both of mine. And so, but it was a similar process where I had to play with those margin settings and get deep in the weird Word document settings and export and just sit there for like 40 minutes and be like, I hope it looks good this time. And yeah, it was many trial and errors, like you said. So
But that was Unhinged. So Unhinged was a fun project. I illustrated it myself with really minimalistic, just like I used a Sharpie. I used a Sharpie on white
whoa,
paper and scanned it.
that's cool.
So here's one of them.
Okay.
There's a on the cover. You've seen the cover, and our guests will probably see the cover. But there's the flower holding a knife.
Yes.
Right? That thing.
Ooh, are we gonna get to see this one? I'm excited.
So the little story, 36 words for that is the flowers were blooming this spring, but they were the wrong kind of flowers. This one had social anxiety. That one had a knife. They all had some miscommunicated history that left them with fake personalities.
That's fantastic. Well, now I'm like, well, I need to know where the story goes, but but it's
Ah,
concise. It sets up a plot, and then it's like, there you go. Let
yeah.
your imagination do the rest. I love that. What
And
made you
so
settle on 36 as your number of words and your number of stories?
my favorite number is 6 for
Okay.
some sort of nerdy mathematical reasons.
Okay.
And then I was like, well, that's far too few for a manageable story, so I'll do
Right.
6 squared.
I'd love to hear the nerdy mathematical reasons since this is the Nerds and Friends podcast. So
So I have this story that I tell about numbers, especially, I mean, so it comes out when I'm asking like, how old are you? Especially older people that feel awkward about their age. I'm like, how
right.
old are you? Like, well, I'm 57. I'm like, that's a great number. That is I think that's 3 times 19.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it
Wow, that was
is.
fast.
And so my opinion, I tell these stories and I kind of actually really do feel this, but it's sort of a joke where every number has a personality based on its prime factors.
Okay.
So the idea is the smaller, like the smaller the factor is, the more innocent.
Okay.
The more factors it has, the more sociable.
Okay.
For example, let's go with 12. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3.
Yes.
Okay. So it's sociable. There are two twos, so it kind of like sticks with its own clique,
Yeah.
but it hangs out with a 3 as well. And they're all young and innocent together. So
Okay.
that's cool. And then let's say 16. It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2.
Yes.
So they're all just hanging out with their own kind, but it's a lot of buddies, a lot of friends. They're getting along and being nice. So that's
Okay.
great. Now, the reason 6 is so great is because it is the number itself is still a single digit, but it has in that context of being a single digit, it has the most amount of prime factors as well as the most diverse. It's 2 times 3.
Okay.
So 4 is 2 times 2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
6 is 2 times 3, so that's great. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2, not very diverse, but sociable.
Okay.
9 is 3 times 3.
So also just kind of like 4 where it's the same thing duplicated. Okay. That's
And then
really
10,
cool.
you've entered into double digits, and so you've left this sort of this prime innocence stage.
Yeah. Now there's many more factors as we start. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. I've never thought of it that way.
Weird tale I tell myself.
That's fun. I like that because it really is a good metaphor for how we tend to grow and develop as people socially. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. That's one of more book I'm gonna write, I think, is like the personalities of prime factors.
I think you should because I've never heard that before. That's really unique. So you should definitely explore that and share it with the world. That's awesome.
Like if nothing else, so one of the things, there's so many things. I am a bit of a nerd, especially when it comes to mathy stuff. But one of the things that I have
You're in the
liked,
right place on this podcast. So
one of the things that I've liked is when I've asked older people or even like young people who feel weird about their age, and they say some number like that's a great one. That's like, and then I'll list the prime factors, and they're like, oh yeah, that is cool, yeah.
that's
And
awesome.
it shifts from I'm old to I don't know what Nathan just said, but it sounds cool.
Yeah. Well, to go back to Unhinged 36 by 36, um, I've always found both like my essays when I was in school and in college, and then not so much with novels because I haven't really had any word constraints on my novels, or word or length restraints. Like having such a tight constraint of 36 words, like how did you work around it? Like that sounds incredibly challenging. Like I've always found like when you have to make a concise writing prompt, or like doing treatments, or like log lines, I find those really challenging, you know? So how what were some of the ways you kind of worked around that as an author?
I From what I recall, it was actually pretty easy. So the stories themselves, I like like I got in a zone. I loosened my brain. I didn't think this has to make sense. This has to be cohesive. Just like it has to be complete sentences. Blurted out some things, and it was, let's say, anywhere from 30 to 40 words in length.
Yeah.
Then there are pretty mundane ways to fix things like that. So like with the in the case of the flowers were blossoming this spring, but they were the wrong kind of flowers. I could have chopped off and said, period, they were the wrong kind of flowers. I could have chopped off and over and said, they were the wrong flowers.
Yeah.
That's a way of shortening it. If ever I felt like I was missing a word, I could say the hideous flowers were blooming this fine spring,
Okay.
but they were always the wrong kind of flowers.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
you had little spices you could throw on there, or little things you could carve off to make it hit that 36. Okay. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Well, so we've talked about how kind of your first book, Untold Tales, that the publishing process was
Painful.
unpleasant because it was your first time and stuff. Like, so besides learning the formatting for yourself and getting confident there, like other aspiring authors or people getting ready to publish for their first time, like what advice would you give them as like for publishing to make it as what'll result in the most satisfactory product at the end of the day?
Most satisfying part at the end of the day. I think what I would say is sort of accept that and maybe even celebrate that it's going to be tedious. Because I think one of the things that stalls or stops authors is thinking, "Oh shoot, it's not perfect again. Ah, I quit." But
Right.
it's just it is. It in my experience, and I'm maybe I there's a far more streamlined way to do it, but in my experience, it's just a thousand iterations of something that feels drab.
Yeah.
You read the story and like, ah, I love my story. Oh shoot, I gotta fix.
Right.
Margins, formatting. Oh no, my proof copy. I didn't know that was gonna happen. Gotta go
Well,
down.
I think that plagues people like us who are creative when uh, the creative part of our job, where we're using our brains to create things and structuring it and molding it, that part's really fulfilling to us. But then the kind of the middle ground where we have to then bring that into real life to share it with people, that part's not creative. It's like you said, structured, organizational, tedious, and that part can dissuade a lot of creative people that don't want to see that through. So I think that's why so many people have wonderful ideas that I hear, and I'm like, that's a really cool idea, but then the execution slows them down, you know. So that's I think that you hit the nail on the head with that. So
And so that's like the sort of end product side. But before that, I feel like most authors get stalled even before worrying about publishing an item. And it's almost similar, but it's more. So I even did like I recorded a little video, and I'm gonna post it on my own stuff. But the two like big things I think authors need to have is grammar and vulnerability.
hmm,
Because so grammar is it not only helps the readers follow you because so many authors, so many writers think, well, I'm just going to use my imagination or poetic license or lots of bullshit excuses to
right,
say I'm not going to work hard.
right,
I'm not going to make consistent reading material for my readers.
right.
I'm just going to and it's good. I mean, there's quality stuff out there that has no structure and you can sort of wade your way through it, but readers will be bogged down. Even if they don't know comma rules, they'll still feel the disconnected nature of it.
Absolutely.
So hard work, know your rules, practice, don't make excuses, try some different styles. Don't need to copy them, but it's good if you know how to do different things so that when that need comes up, you can wield that skill.
I 100% agree.
And then the other side of the writing life, I would say, is vulnerability, where a lot of times we writers think, oh no, like somebody's going to know that I this shitty experience in my life because of even if it's a fictional character in like a space age setting, people get nervous. I think sometimes about like being seen.
Right.
That's it. That's part of writing.
Yeah, that's why I do it. I'm like, I want to explore concepts and things that I think about just in the metaphorical context of a fictional story, and that's the fun of it for me. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
Besides the misery of publishing and editing and stuff,
Yeah,
front end, know how to like know your grammar, know where commas go, etc., and then be vulnerable. Be expose yourself,
yeah,
nakedify yourself,
yeah.
almost.
No, it's like you're being just vulnerable with your intellect and your creativity and your thoughts and your emotions. So
Yeah.
no, I think
And
that's
your
really cool.
hurts and your angst and your regrets, your
Yeah,
childhood trauma and your failed dreams, or even your active dreams. Like I was going for the more angsty side, but there's
yeah.
so many things that we like are worried about revealing.
You mentioned that you did your own illustrations for Unhinged.
That's right.
Do you do any other kind of visual art, or are there any other like creative hobbies you have besides writing and illustrating?
Yes.
I'd love to hear about them.
Um, yeah. So I'm not well practiced yet, but I want to be a visual artist.
Cool.
I've done some like sort of hybrid visual work for my various literature bits. Like
Yeah.
like for one of my books, I created the cover, but it was really like, here's a stock photo. Okay, now I'm going to use some software to like modify things and chop this piece out, put that piece in. It. I guess it kind of counts. I did some oil painting, like oil on canvas painting, for about a year, where I took a class and I did it almost every week. I would take a 2 hour class.
Oh wow.
So that's like somewhere in the back of my heart that I haven't been able to revisit that. I could ramble on. I play the guitar and piano a bit.
Nice.
A lot of my other creative hobbies are writing related. Like speaking of D&D, I have a D&D campaign that I've created.
Oh, cool. That's helped me as a writer a lot too. When I get writer's block, is going and playing D&D with my friends because you know, I'm a DM, and so like there is some planning involved, but a lot of it is improv and setting something up and where based on where your players take it and the characters adapting on the fly and like collaborative storytelling. So that's helped pull me out of writer's block so many times.
And it's less confining because with a book, you have to have paragraph following a paragraph and be
Right.
like, this makes sense. Whereas in a D&D campaign, you're like, well, I have this sort of character idea, and there's this sort of town with some random pieces, and nothing's written down, but they're
Right.
kind of vaguely like sitting there somewhere. And so you don't need to have a sentence flow to the next paragraph. Well, you can just boom.
Exactly. Oh, okay. This is a fun one. So, it sounds like the most traditionally narrative story is the Meadowvale book.
Yeah.
And so with that one, having you mentioned kind of an ensemble cast of characters, like and you've told us kind of about a couple of the main characters and their quest. Like, who's your favorite minor character that you have that's just in a couple scenes, but that you really like connected to, and we're like, I love that character. Like, I'd love to hear about that.
That's a tough question because most of my like sort of minimalistic characters are still like they're medium.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to think because like there were, so I threw in like throughout the story as I was writing it, I threw in some characters like cool, here's a filler, here's like just a filler, and then I was like, I liked that filler. Let me bring him in again. And I was like,
Yeah.
I really like that guy. I'm gonna bring him in again. All right, he's gonna be somebody.
I mean, and don't spoil anything because I can't wait to read Meadowvale. But like, do you kind of fixate on any of the lizard characters, or are they kind of?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you do. Okay, that's exciting. I
Yeah,
want to know
so
more about these malevolent lizards that just take over and enslave a town. I want to get into their psychology and see what's up with them.
oh man, no. So you like they are not small characters.
Oh, good. Okay,
Of
that's
course,
cool.
there are a few throwaways. There's like some random guard that got killed. Okay, sure.
Totally. Yeah.
But some of the main characters, so they have, whatever. I'm gonna say it. They have weird names. Let me preface first.
Okay.
I wanted the lizards to be really like feel foreign,
Okay.
specifically via their names. And so I was like, what would like what sounds do lizards make, and how do I turn that into syllables? How do I turn that into names?
I don't. I'm trying to think. Like, what sounds do lizards make? I've been
Well,
living in California. I've encountered many a lizard, but I don't think I've ever heard them make a sound.
I don't know. I use my. I mean, there's some like random like National Geographic Time videos or clips where you
Okay.
see like a reptile doing soundy things.
I figure like the bigger ones might be able to like vocalize, right, or something. Okay.
These are weird guttural things, I
Okay.
guess. So from that now, a couple key characters. The Emperor, the main lizard bad guy.
Yes.
His name is Rasi Kichakatr.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see how you spell that in the
Yeah.
book.
You want to, if I can find it,
Okay.
look for that as we continue chatting. So that's the main guy. Um, he's I ooh. Can I tell you how much I love him?
Please do.
He's supposed to be like the main bad guy, but and I've hated this. There have been so many uh, books, movies, whatever stories where the bad guy is grandiose, just like he's like drama pants stupid, always giving long speeches about how like noble they are, or at least like just grand speeches about how evil they are, or like the big evil plans, and they're just always pouring out sappy words.
Yeah.
Whether or not they believe it's just like, ugh.
It's not realistic. If someone was an actual threat, they'd be a lot more conniving and concise and cryptic and
Yes. And
yeah.
so every time the emperor comes up, he's never there are like a few moments where somebody really angers him.
Oh,
And then he's like, like, I think I might have to kill you. But most of the time, and that's like the brief moments where he's actually threatening. And then every
yeah.
other time, he's a huge lizard, even for lizards, which are big in my story,
Yeah.
super huge. And he's got scars all over his body. But every time he's interacting, either with his own subordinates or with his rabbit captured slaves,
Yeah.
he's always like, my friend, what why are you so concerned?
Ah, so
He has like
he's got this persona of like, hey, you can't deny me because I'm acting nice, but there's
yeah,
that hint of menacing behind him. Ooh, I love that.
yeah. And like they're one of his higher ranking officials that I nicknamed the librarian.
Okay.
So the librarian is high ranking and he's also an intelligent man.
Mhm.
He has an office with a lot of books and he used to study all kinds of crazy stuff. But as the lizards got more and more powerful, they were like, we don't really care about that stuff anymore. Let's just do more like capturing and killing, I guess. So the
Expansion and conquering and all that. Okay.
librarian is he's pissed about that. He's jaded.
Okay.
So his rank is too high for anybody to bother him, but they've kind of like sort of politely shoved him off to the side.
Interesting. Okay.
He clashes with the guy whom I've nicknamed the Slaver.
Hmm.
Slaver is a lower rank, but because he's a sociopath and he
You'd
doesn't
have
mind
to be enslaving people. Yeah.
and he doesn't mind murdering rabbits or lizards.
Oh
Anybody
wow.
that gets in his well, he thinks the lizard's way. If he gets like in the way of the lizards, I'll just kill
As
you.
a large entity. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'll just kill you. So those two are often clashing.
I
I
love the
love it.
dynamics you're bringing into these characters. That's so cool, man. That's awesome. That's so cool. I can't wait to see how these names are spelled. I love that. Well, I love how you I mean it doesn't only add fun flavor, but like you said, there's thought behind it. It's like what sounds would lizards make in their language? Like what feels natural for, an army of like superior lizard people. Like that really feels cool. That's awesome.
Thanks. Let me see if I can. Where's the spelling? I don't feel confident about spelling it. Here it is.
I want to know how many R's there are. I'm excited.
Well, so I think I can say this. So in the lizard culture, your name goes up and down with the syllables. Sorry, the syllables in your name go up and down with your rank.
Oh, okay.
So to grant a higher rank, you get an extra syllable or a half syllable even.
Okay. That's why the Emperor's has the Rakshasra. Yeah, I was close, right? So yeah, each of those consonants there that adds a syllable, that's like rank. That's like superiority in their culture.
And so it's a subtle thing. Yeah. So
That's a really cool flavor thing though. That's really cool.
If it's three R's, that's a syllable and a half.
Oh,
It's like an extra half syllable.
okay.
And so sometimes if you rank up a half instead of going from, like your name might have two R's and it's just ra, just like a trilled, a lot of languages out there have trilled R's. But in the lizard culture, you just pause, you just trill a little bit longer, and that's a half syllable added to your rank.
Okay. That's really cool. I love that. I normally close out our interviews with authors about saying, what's the one piece of advice you would give to aspiring authors? But we've already covered vulnerability and grammar. So,
Mhm.
is there anything else you want to let the readers know? I mean, or the listeners and readers, future readers of your books?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, again, to everyone listening and watching, Mr. Rudolph's work, we're going to have links in the podcast description. So check those out. And yeah, this has been a great discussion, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
I agree. Thank you for your time and your gracious questions. For listeners slash readers,
Yes.
I don't know. I got more things in the works. Michael the Traveler is finished, but I have to edit the jingleberries out of him,
Okay.
not him, and that's another novel.
Very cool.
So sort of fantasy based, but it's a little more trippy, a little multiverse esque.
Oh, I have to say, quick digression. Have you seen the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, not yet.
Oh, if you like the concept of multiverse, I think that's the best movie to explore it. It's a really poignant movie. I highly recommend it.
Nice, nice. For what it's worth, Michael the Traveler technically isn't multiverse. It is a young boy who learned like at first he thinks he's just having weird dreams, but then he discovers he's the traveler. The
Oh,
traveler, he learns how to travel, navigate the dimensions. And I
oh,
try so hard in the story. I try so hard not to say you're traveling to like a different universe. It's just you're just realizing, oh, the world is deeper and like more dimension than we've ever perceived.
oh. I like that.
So I can I add one more piece.
That's fantastic. Well, when Michael the Traveler is closer to coming out, we'd love to have you back on the podcast to talk more about that and get our listeners hyped and help you out with the release for that because that sounds really cool.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for being on Nerds and Friends. I really appreciate your time, Mr. Rudolph. Thank you.
Yeah.